Do you ever wonder why Alkaline is always silent and mysterious, yet he's in everyone's conversation? He's in almost all the headlines. How comes dancehall keeps such artists relevant without he lifting a finger? Let's talk about. First, one has to look at why most artists fear Alkaline. Most people look at dancehall and think every artist is fearless. They think everybody ready for smoke, everybody ready for clash, and everybody willing to call name just to prove a point. But the truth is far more interesting. Whenever Alkaline names enter the room, whether in studio or a casual industry conversation, the mood doesn't stay the same, the energy shift. People slow down, they choose their word wisely. Not because they are afraid of him, that would be a lie. It's because Alkaline is the hardest artist in dancehall to read, understand and predict. And in a business built on ego and strategy, the man you cannot calculate becomes the man you approach with caution. See, most artists operate with their personality and full display. You get interviews, you see their emotions online, you know them best friend, their allies, their motivators and their weakness. You can study them like a book. But Alkaline, he's the complete opposite. He's more like a closed system. He gives you silence, he gives you distance, he gives you space to guess. And when human beings have to guess, their minds start to work overtime. They start imagining things, overthinking things, creating possibilities that might not even be real. We saw this several times with his fans and even the haters alike. And that is where the real psychological advantage begins. The less he shows, the more power he holds. This leads directly into the first major reason artists move differently around him, or even how they mention his name. His silence is his biggest weapon. Most artists depend on noise and public opinions. Noise gives most artists a sense of power, but silence gives Alkaline full control. When an artist doesn't talk, doesn't post, doesn't react, and doesn't even explain himself, you can't measure his emotions. You can't see his intentions. You can't detect his next step. And the moment someone becomes unreadable, your confidence drops without you even realizing it. Think about it. How do you prepare for a man who hides every card? How do you approach an artist who shows no emotional pattern, no public weakness, not one thing out there that artists can use against him, except, of course, the broader thing, which he doubles down on. The truth is, you just can't. Here's a tricky truth about this. When you can't predict an artist, you automatically give them space. And we all know that space is a form of fear disguised as respect. It's pure psychology. Silence forces people into defensive thinking. It forces them to consider the worst case scenario. It keeps them off balance, and Alkaline has mastered that dynamic better than almost any artist in the modern era of dancehall. So unlike some artists who overpower people with their aggression or their dynamic skills, he overpowers them by revealing nothing. He keeps the entire industry guessing. Remember, man, Alkaline is like a wild card, not in a reckless way. More like in a strategic way. It doesn't follow the usual rhythm of dancehall. Them man move different with the crowd. Him not chase like the hype cycle. Like his earlier days. Him not jumping at every wave or trend. Him always stay over the unpredictable side. What makes it even deeper is the fact that Alkaline treats the industry like a game he's not emotionally attached to. To simply put, he's an artist that you cannot manipulate or provoke. That's why some artists don't speak strongly on his name.
I don't rate Alkaline still. The music bad, but
not because they fear retaliation, but because they don't understand the rules of engagement with him. They don't know if silence is even safe. Alkaline is the only artist in dancehall right now when it comes to his presence in the game. It changes how everyone else moves. I'ma break it down. Massacre. His caution is way more quieter, but even more revealing. He always give those half compliments. You remember the interview when I say him rate Alkaline music when I rate him? That's not disrespecting again, similar to Vibes card. That's a she backhand compliment. Don't forget this was way back, Now think about this. When Massacre was rising, Alkaline didn't clash him because the levels weren't equal. He pulls the levels card, which was the truth at the time. Now Massacre is hot and Alkaline new music is colder. But still Massacre is running from a clash. You cannot pull a levels card on an artist who dominated time that you are still catching up on.
You accept that Alkaline is ahead right
no,
now?
you have to accept that. You have to know, right now. we talk facts. You understand? If on a cartel Alkaline.
You cannot pull levels card on that. That is what Massacre wants you to believe. Deep down, the DJ knows that clashes are not about who hot today. They are about the bigger thinker, who can hold composure and who can strike from angles nobody expects. And when it comes to threat or disrespect in a musical warfare with Alkaline, there is no direct entry for no one. This alone creates a form of awareness. And if you look deeper, it's actually a fear disguised as distance. That's what Massacre is doing. And again, we're not saying he's afraid of Alkaline. What we do know, he's aware of the consequences. Remember, I'm say Alkaline bad enough, so he's aware of the fact. And then remember, Alkaline fan base is still active. Should I use another example? Why not? This one is different. Take for example, Vybz Kartel diss tracks. Our songs aimed at Alkaline. He did several. Highest level training wheel, closed casket, the list goes on. Do you notice the common factor among all his songs? They were written from a place of dominance, which is probably the only entry door Vybz Kartel had. Except the usual, him can write a song with a bag of gangster lyrics, him gun big and him bust through this, all that, closed casket, right? Perfect example. Other than that, there's nothing else for him to tread on. And even then he had to tread carefully. Basically, he made Alkaline look smaller. Position him as not in my league, while still acknowledging that he's a talented artist. That is where I get lines like, them at the bottom level, training wheel. Basically, he uses dominance as a shield, and he does it in a way that keeps the power in his hand. Yeah, him bad, but you know the per mile. Now you might be saying, Mlard, where I go with this? See, this is called narrative control, which is a simple term used in psychology. Because Kartel knows that if him rate the DJ too publicly, it'll lift him up, right? Because most of you might not realize, if you listen back some of them songs there, you would realize that some of those lines were backhand compliments, similar to Massacre. Not just disrespect, which says a whole lot. And if you look at it the other way, if Vybz Kartel ignores him completely, and this is where it gets interesting, it will only empower Alkaline because you are now reside on the lane that Alkaline built his career on, silent zone. A matter of fact, like the video and stick around for the part where he uses silence to manipulate the entire industry. What Vybz Kartel did was just stay in the middle, shaping the conversation so Alkaline remains the challenger, not the equal. That's a very specific type of caution. That's a man making sure the public doesn't see the similarities in approach, influence and impact, because when you really look at it, Alkaline used Kartel blueprint, the mystic, the controversy, the reinvention, and executed so well that the comparison became unavoidable. And Kartel had to respond in a way that protects his tune while still acknowledging the youth. It's not normal.
Alkaline.
I know. You said remind me, of course, obviously, it's him. You just said it too, and that's a good point. The generation that he came up in, they embrace him as their cartel.
Yeah.
So that's why you got a lot of props from them as well. It's not just because he does good songs. They just wanted their own cartel and they got one.
We could really knock a couple more layers off of this with Vybz Kartel and Alkaline. Maybe I have to go do a full video because it's really deep, Alkaline was using the Machiavelli plan. And I think Vybz Kartel bend time and change the output. Like, nobody did expect the Vybz Kartel it's like a release music. I mean, just like I said, this, if Vybz Kartel it stop release music, Alkaline would have been the biggest thing in the dancehall right now. The formula that he was using, or him rings Vybz Kartel style, it worked. It worked. Like, who had the craziest run? Like Alkaline. Just picture that. He would have been the biggest thing. Me I tell you, a lot of Gaza fans would not flock Alkaline music right now. And there is no doubt he's an incredible artist. Think about it. You think a man who dish out mediocre for the past few years, and I'm talking about his current music, would still have the level of impact him have right now in a dancehall? This is what I am talking about. This is what the video is built around. How this man remains so relevant and him not have a song. Let's not stray from the reasoning though. Another example, Bounty Killer, one of the most fearless, outspoken artists. A man who went on several stage shows and uttered that from a boy violate Mama Ivy at dirt. So why did Bounty Killer didn't answer Alkaline immediately? It's like he's still processing the fact that a little artist had the guts to tell him about his mother straight in him DM. And if anybody else, Bounty Killer would have destroyed him immediately. But Alkaline's unpredictability makes even the bigger generals them slow down and think twice. And again, this is not about Bounty being afraid of Alkaline. It's the mere fact that You can't see him, you can't read him. How do you deal with an artist who refuses to play the game that every other dancehall artist depends on? The real point is these artists don't fear Alkaline as a person. They fear what he represents, the wild card, a variable, a mind they can't control. And that is a pressure he puts on the entire industry. Almost a decade after Mbonte's stillness. Imagine that. Now let's talk about why Alkaline remains untouchable in dancehall. Even when he's not topping charts or dropping hits every month. Well, a long time he not drop none still. Alkaline's presence in dancehall cannot be ignored. That's a brilliance of his strategy. He doesn't need constant headlines to maintain control. His influence works quietly, almost invincibly, yet it shapes decisions, behavior, and precisions across the entire industry, even in the vlogging community. What makes it even more impressive and deadly is the fact that Alkaline controls perception without confrontation or even the true reality. Take for example his last interview, Madness. But a lot of people still have something good to say about it. Some even burn a concept in the back of their mind and still believe it's a true reality. Here's the crucial part though. See, this style of influence or dominance doesn't rely on temporary hype. And it's not seasonal, it's more structural, something embedded in the artist's style of operation. This is why when even moments where his output slows or his career takes a quiet turn, the industry still bends to his will. That is influence without noise. That is mastery without confrontation. That is why Alkaline is and will remain untouchable in ways few can't understand or replicate. There is a hidden formula though. Remember me telling you I use the Machiavelli plan. So from step 1 I use strategic unpredictability, where it shows just enough to let the fans engage, and the fans are important because they are the one who bear the burden, but never enough for our rivals or the industry to predict his next move. That's why artists don't know what to say about him, because they can't read him. Then there's step 2. Controlled exposure. Basically, Alkaline pick his moments carefully from songs, interviews, collaborations. So every appearance or releases carries its own weight. Nothing is wasted. He makes every moment feel monumental. Even if the man posts a blank page tomorrow, Vendetta fans them are going to find a meaning for it. They are going to go extreme about it. Then there's step 3, narrative control. Basically, let others talk first. Rivals make mistakes publicly. Fans debate the next move. The media overhype the incident, while Alkaline sit back and let everything unfold without interference.
That's my style, man, you know? Sometimes I just want to hold a vibe, you know? And watch where I go.
Then there is brand mystic. From his image to his lyrics, every element signal powers individuality and dominance. The man balanced controversy with artistic excellence, rebellion with strategy, and unpredictability with consistency. This combination makes him impossible to ignore and difficult to challenge. The final step, which is step 5, is calculated restraint. Basically, Alkaline knows when to strike and when not to. You know what I mean? And that restraint sends a subtle message. I am not desperate, I choose my battles, I am above the noise, and in dancehall, that alone forces respect, even from the loudest, most aggressive artists. When I put all of this together, you see the method behind the myth. This isn't luck and not hype. This is a psychological dominance executed with precision. And it's why Alkaline continues to hold sway over the entire industry. Artists, labels, promoters, and fans all play their moves in response to him. Even when he's quiet, even when he's out of the spotlight, even when nobody thinks he's hot. That is control few have ever mastered, and that is why Alkaline remains untouchable.